I looked at every reason men end up alone, and the results may shock you. If you think it's just personality, you've been lied to. I also looked into a few myths, things that you might think would hurt a man's chances, but actually don't matter much at all. So, what the hell? Why the frick not? Let's go ahead and make a tier list out of it. If it's in the S tier, that means it definitely can and usually will cause a man to be involuntarily celibate. And if it's in the D tier, that means it makes no difference whatsoever on how successful a man is at attracting women. D stands for myth, with a silent D, I guess. First off, let's talk about guys that have a bad attitude towards women. I get a lot of comments on my videos talking about, no wonder you can't get laid. Just listen to yourself. You blame all your problems on women. Women can sense that on you. You got a negative attitude towards women. Of course they want nothing to do with you. Okay, a couple things. First off, I don't blame all my problems on women. Only 99% of them. Just kidding. Really, I don't blame women for my problems. I blame most of my problems on the state of modern society, which incentivizes hyperselectivity amongst women. But either way, even if I did just walk around saying super misogynistic things everywhere I go, that would make no difference. There are plenty of men out there that actually do hate women and treat them like garbage, and some of those men are involuntarily celibate, but a lot of those men aren't. A lot of those men do manage to attract women, and some of those men are extremely popular with women. Whoever you are watching this, I'm sure you've seen it before where the kindest, most sweetest girl you know will sometimes be in a relationship with a guy that's just straight up evil. Like, the girl will be all about going to church every Sunday, always talking about tolerance and being kind and doing good deeds. You know, the type of gal that cries when she sees a bird catch a worm because she feels bad for the worm. Then she'll be dating a guy that catcalls middle schoolers and starts fights at the bar for fun. And if you're thinking, yeah, okay, but those guys probably are being nice to the women they're dating, so that doesn't really count. Well, yeah, they probably are. And it does count because that's my whole point. A man can be a raging misogynist and still do well with women because he could be good looking enough to get away with it. Or if he's not, then he could just act differently around women for as long as he needs to get them on the hook. Nothing pisses me off more than when I hear women try to act like the only reason certain men can't get a girlfriend is because they have a bad attitude about women. That is a non-factor. The only reason people say that is because they're trying to dismiss the real struggle that probably millions of men are living through. Involuntary celibacy is no joke. It is a horrible fate that nobody should have to suffer through. But a whole lot of men do suffer from involuntary celibacy. You can't straw man away all those men's pain by telling them, well, maybe you shouldn't be so hateful. Maybe you shouldn't be so pessimistic. Not all of those men are hateful, okay? Most men that struggle to find any success dating women are just regular guys, meaning it's a very diverse group. There are some ride-or-die male feminist, progressive, leftist, all that, okay, all the so-called female-friendly beliefs. There are men with those beliefs that cannot get a date to save their lives. Believe it or not, a man's attitudes toward women has pretty much nothing to do with his ability to attract women. So having a bad attitude towards women is a D-tier cause of involuntary celibacy. But now let's talk about a personality trait that actually can cause a man to struggle with dating. What, did you think I was going to say looks is the only thing that matters? The truth is, at the extreme highs and lows, looks can be make it or break it. Some men are so good looking they'll have success no matter what they do, just like some men are so unattractive, there's nothing they could do to achieve success. But for men that are somewhere in the middle, personality does play a role. Certain behavioral traits can either be a bonus or they could be a detriment. One personality trait that is a huge detriment when it comes to attracting women is when a man has social anxiety. In other words, when a man is shy or he has high inhibition. No matter how progressive we get as a society, there are certain traditional gender roles that never change. For example, traditionally, men are the gender that are expected to approach women and initiate romantic contact. Women are the gender that are expected to choose which man amongst their multiple suitors they would like to, do whatever with, whether that be enter into a committed relationship or just have a situationship or whatever. No amount of quote-unquote social progress has done anything at all to change those specific gender expectations. Even in the most feminist society in the world, probably Sweden or Canada or something, I don't know, maybe California, but even in those places, men are expected to initiate any and all romantic interaction. So if you are a man that is anything less than extremely attractive and you have social anxiety, then there's a good chance you might end up involuntarily celibate because it takes a lot of nerve to approach women. Now, obviously, dating apps make it a lot easier to shoot your shot without having to face rejection face-to-face. But dating apps are very much a zero-sum game where even fairly attractive men can't get any dates. Only the top 5% of men, at best, have any success on dating apps. So for an average-looking guy who struggles with social anxiety, he's not going to be having any success on the apps. And he's very unlikely to be able to overcome his anxiety to approach women, in most cases. And when he does, he'll probably be a stuttering mess. Despite what everyone likes to tell you, people can pick up on it when you're really nervous about something. They can hear it in your voice. They can see it in your body language. Anxiety is not invisible. The man may be invisible to women, but his anxiety is not. And it is true what they say about women being attracted to confidence. So for a man with social anxiety, even if he does get the courage to approach a woman, he's usually not going to have very good chances unless he's at least kind of good looking, because good looks will make up for a lot of faults. So I'm putting social anxiety in the B tier. Being shy and high inhibition as a man certainly can be a cause of involuntary celibacy. And it often is for men that are average or maybe even slightly above average looking. But if a man is good looking enough, then it won't matter how shy he is. At a certain level of attractiveness, women will just throw themselves at you. So personality doesn't matter at all at that point. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the big one, the face card. If you have an unattractive face as a man, then you probably will never get to touch a woman that you're not related to, and most women will not even be capable of loving you. Face is everything. S tier. Ugly mug disorder is the leading cause of involuntary celibacy. It's not the only cause, like a lot of people in this space will tell you, but it is one of the biggest causes. There are lots of guys that are average looking in the face that maybe could get into a rewarding, fulfilling relationship under the right circumstances, but at a certain level of facial unattractiveness, there's literally nothing you can do. And before you leave a comment about this one guy you know that's ugly as shit, but he has a smoking hot wife, first of all, that guy's probably not even as ugly as you think. These kinds of anecdotes are useless without pictures. And secondly, there are outliers. Like, yes, there are surely some men out there that are very ugly in the face that have managed to attract a beautiful woman. I'm sure it's happened before. that is an outlier. You know that's not common. I know that's not common. Let's not waste our time talking about things that don't matter when we could be discussing what is actually reality for millions of chronically lonely men all around the world. The fact of the matter is that an unattractive face is damn near a death sentence for a man's love life. In most cases, it is impossible to overcome. I don't care how many females throughout your life have told you they don't care about looks. They're all full of shit, okay? Looks do matter. They matter a lot, especially your face. And having an unattractive face can also be a multiplier on other loneliness-causing attributes a man might have. For example, we've already talked about how social anxiety can lead to involuntary celibacy. Well, imagine growing up going through life with an ugly face. The way you get treated by most people due to your looks will, in most cases, naturally lead to lowered confidence. Your frequent experience of seeing people react with disgust whenever they have to interact with you will probably give you social anxiety. So not only is having an ugly face just the worst possible thing in and of itself when it comes to failing with women, but it'll also multiply other detrimental traits you might have. So yeah, having an ugly face is easily an S-tier cause of involuntary celibacy. But while it is true that face is king, there are other physically unattractive traits that can and often do render a man sexless in modern society. So let's talk about being short. Do not ever let women gaslight you about height. Women are attracted to men that are tall, period. It doesn't even matter how tall the woman is. Women that are 4'11", like guys that are 6'4". Women that are 5'11", like guys that are 6'4". And women that are 6'4" themselves, like guys that are 6'4" or taller. Women are attracted to men that are tall. That is a fact. However, it's also a fact that face is king. Face is more important than height. So a sufficiently attractive face can make up for being short to some degree, okay, to a point. Most men that are 5'6" are probably going to have next to no luck with attracting women, but a 5'6" man with a 9 out of 10 face will probably do all right. He's not going to be a slayer, but he'll probably not be forced to be celibate either. But there is some level of shortness that cannot be overcome with a good face. For example, if a man is 5'2", then it's unlikely he'll have any success even if he has an extremely attractive face. So being short is an A-tier cause of involuntary celibacy because it's not necessarily over just because you're short. But if you're short as a man with anything less than a male model face, then it's over. Probably. By the way, I hate when women say, height doesn't even matter. As long as the guy's taller than me, it's fine. And you'll usually hear this from shorter chicks, so the implication is that a guy that's 5'4" could still be attractive as long as he's taller than the girl. But when they say this, they are literally still saying that height does matter. And also, it's just cap anyways. Taller is always better, up to somewhere around 6'6" maybe. I don't think most women differentiate between, say, 6'6" and 6'9". At that point, you're tall enough. But what about when a man isn't short, but his money is? How does being broke affect how attractive a man is to women? Classic wisdom states that having money is something that helps a lot with attracting women, even if it might not be the most wholesome gals you're attracting. And there is some truth to that, especially at the upper end of wealth. Like if a man is a 5 out of 10 in the face, perfectly average, but he's got a net worth of $100 million, the money probably is going to improve his odds of getting some. But that's not exactly what we're talking about anyways. Can a lack of money, aka being broke, hurt a man's chances so bad it is literally the difference between having a normal romantic life and being involuntarily celibate? Well, maybe. I think there's probably some broke guys out there that are not very good looking, maybe about average looking, or slightly above average, that maybe could have had some success if they had more money. But for the most part, if a guy can't get laid when he's got no money, then he probably won't be able to get laid when he has money either. And vice versa. If a guy does okay with women while he's got a solid income, then usually that guy would do fine even if he was broke. Money is one of those things that's mostly just a bonus. It only matters if you're already good looking enough to be above a certain minimum looks threshold. And for guys that are attractive, being broke just doesn't matter much. Women will overlook anything for an attractive guy. So being broke is a C tier cause of involuntary celibacy. It doesn't make as big a difference as most people think it does. What makes a little bit of a bigger difference is a bigger belly, being fat. Some guys are able to get away with being a little chubby if they have a good enough face, but for most men, being fat does significantly decrease how attractive they are to women. There absolutely are plenty of men that are involuntarily celibate solely because of how fat they are. And most of these men have been fat their entire lives. They got fat in their youth due to poor parenting, and they were never able to lose it. Honestly, I don't think it's that hard to lose weight for most people. I've done it before, so I know it's not easy, and it's not fair for guys that got fat in childhood because their parents never taught them proper nutrition, but at the same time, you could lose weight. Okay, it's not that hard. Now, for fat men that do struggle, it's not like being fat is the only reason most of them are involuntarily celibate. A lot of fat guys just don't have good facial attractiveness even if they did lose weight. But some of them surely do. There's probably some guys that could be like an 8 out of 10 or better in facial attractiveness, but they don't even know it because they've been obese since they were 7 years old. So in cases like that, yeah, a man in that situation is only in the position he's in because of being fat. So I'd say being fat is a B tier cause of involuntary celibacy. That might seem a little low. Like, why is it not A tier? Well, I think most guys that have good enough face potential, if they were just a little bit fat, their face would still be coming into play. Like, say, if Henry Cavill was a little bit chubby, he'd still be attractive to women. It's not until a guy gets really fat, like obese or maybe near obese, it's not until then that it usually hurts his chances enough to be the cause of his dating struggles. So, yeah, B tier. Okay, so looking at the list so far, most of the most detrimental traits are all things that affect a man's physical attractiveness. And that makes sense because if you didn't know, looks are life. Personality and behavior can affect how attractive a man is to women, but it's just not anywhere near as important as how a man actually looks. Okay? Looks matter. A lot. So let's talk about social ineptitude. What about a guy that's highly autistic to the point that all he talks about is Warhammer 40K or different types of weather sirens or whatever his special interest is? Well, it's not good if you're average looking. Maybe your socially inept hyper-autism could even hurt your chances if you're slightly above average looking. In fact, I think it would in most cases. But ultimately, looks are still the primary determining factor in whether or not a man is able to live a normal life. If you have a good-looking face, then you don't need to have good social skills. The same exact behavior that would give women the ick if you were only average looking will be magically reframed as you just being quirky or mysterious or unique if you're good looking. So the same social ineptitude that might actually cause involuntary celibacy in an average-looking man wouldn't even affect an attractive man, and it might even be seen as a positive. I'm still going to put social ineptitude in the B tier because it does matter sometimes depending on how attractive or unattractive a man is. It can also hinder your ability to build a social circle, which is actually what we're going to be talking about next. Something you hear about a lot in certain red pill manosphere spaces is this concept of social proof. To put it simply, the idea is that if women can see that a man is popular with other women, then they also will see him as more attractive. You can see this in action with how someone like Pete Davidson ended up being a celebrity boy toy to all these different female bog queens, even though, objectively, he's not super attractive. I don't think he's ugly. I mean, he's tall, he's lean, he has straight teeth. Yeah, he looks a little bit like if Diddy Kong got turned into a human, but he is attractive enough. He would still probably do decently, even if he wasn't famous. But him being famous is what got him the ability to hook up with Ariana Grande. And before he got with Ariana, he was dating Larry David's daughter, which he also probably only got with because of social proof. He was a cast member on Saturday Night Live, a program that Larry David has also worked for, so that gave him social proof with the girl's dad. Then he had the social proof from being famous, plus already dating a girl that's kinda famous on social media, so he was able to attract Ariana Grande before she got completely bogged, okay? She was still fairly attractive back then. And since that time, old Pistol Pete has just been running through these Hollywood starlets like nobody's business. Because he's got the social proof. So obviously, social proof can have a significant impact on a man's love life. With that said, I can only put this one as high as the C tier because lack of social proof is very rarely the only reason a guy can't attract women. It's not the cause of a man's involuntary celibacy in most cases. Social proof can lift an unattractive man out of the pit, but usually it can't even do that. Because actually ugly men almost never manage to accumulate social proof. That's just a byproduct of the inverse halo effect. Unattractive people are always looked down upon, and people will always assume the worst about them, so it's very difficult to even get any social proof. In the case of Pete Davidson, yeah, social proof helped elevate his success to new heights. I mean, if you just want to suffer, go ahead and look up a list of all of Pete Davidson's exes. It's ridiculous. Social proof was obviously doing some heavy lifting, but like I said, Pete Davidson isn't ugly. He wouldn't be celibate even if he was homeless. So social proof can be a big bonus, but it's almost never the only thing making the difference between celibacy and success. So it's not usually the reason a man can't get some. So that's why it's in the C tier. Through all this analysis, I think the key takeaway is that all the biggest reasons why men struggle so much with dating women these days are all things pertaining to looks. Yes, there are men out there that are only forced into celibacy because of other factors, such as severe social anxiety or hyperautism. But for most of us, looks is the biggest issue. And for a lot of us, looks is the only issue. Looks are everything. How physically attractive you are as a man is the single most important factor in determining your overall quality of life. I'm not saying that success with women is the only thing that matters as far as quality of life. It is very important, but all the same reasons why women feel repulsion to certain men, other men are repulsed by those same things. Okay, these things, namely your looks, They affect your job prospects. It affects your ability to make friends and form lasting bonds. It just affects nearly every aspect of your life. And it's worse these days than ever before, mostly due to social media and online dating. But yeah, it's tough out there for all the men that are less than perfect in the looks department. And most of these things, like your face, that's hard to fix. Good luck, fellas. If you enjoyed the video or you think you got some value out of it, please watch some of my other videos. I have a lot of videos talking about male loneliness, looks theory, social dynamics, as well as my own personal experiences living in this world as an unattractive man. There's also some secret videos you can watch for free on my Patreon. No sign up required, so check that out. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.